And as the pace heightens, we say greetings and welcome to the afternoon sessions. This is vk3sl test missions on 160 and on UHF. Hey, yes, it is UHF. I have to check. We'll standardise that at some point. Anyhow, not much to report. It's just the endless cycle, but sunny days do make a difference, I have to say. And I've had a few gaps today, which is also a good thing. Looking at the screen continuously can be a bit of a straitjacket. So, a few walks out and about, and that's the way of things. All right, as usual, we'll start off with something nostalgic, deeply nostalgic. I was looking on the shelf and I found a Lightbeam record. I think it's Henri Merkel's orchestra, I think. I can't really... The label's one of those Brunswick labels from the mid-20s where it is all but worn off. The gold leaf is worn off, and you have to hold it up to the light, and you just see the indent, and I think it's a track made in 1925 or early 26 called very non-PC title. It's called Chinky Butterfly, and it's an absolute beauty, if I remember correctly. Here we go, and unfortunately we had some hum, and look, I reckon a bit of RF might be getting in. We'll just see if it's redeemable. Let's see what's happening here. Oh God, that sounds pretty bad. What can we do? Ah, there we go. It's a head shell issue. What a pity. We didn't hear all that intermod distortion to its full expression. Let's listen to the last bit again. It's got to be heard to be believed. This is the ultimate splat record, where they just completely ran the levels right out on full and everything is distorted. So, listen again to a quintessential light beam recording from the 20s. Just the last bit. Euphoric distortion. That is the ultimate.
Sure is full on.
It certainly is, and it's all inherent on the disc. It was recorded that way. They just turned the levels up far too high. I mean, it had native problems anyhow with the light beam system. It was a flawed system to begin with, tracing a light off I think it was all done with modulating a light signal, and that had major flaws in its delivery. But but I think the engineers were trying to get the presence level up, and they just completely overdid it. I think it's worth playing the other side. That is the ultimate, I think, that record. So I'll hold it up. It's, Mike Merkel's orchestra. I've got to really hold this up sideways because it's almost unreadable. And it's on an early Brunswick. And unfortunately, this record has got both a crack and a bite. So it's not in good condition, but it just has to be savoured for its inherent sonic non-qualities. Now, let's see. The other side, I can't even read at all. It's completely lost to us. So, here we go. Yes, it's Flaming Mimi, of course. This is a great song, a song actually written by Paul Whiteman. And it's got very subversive lyrics. The lyrics of the song, you think about what they might be singing about. And it doesn't leave a lot to the imagination. So, here we go. In the Groove, vk3sl.
Surefire vamp, the hottest baby in town. She's a hard scorcher, she loves torture, a gal that burns them down. Of all those damn turning mamas, not one compares, cause she stands endurance, carries fire insurance on everything she wears. When it comes to love, and she's a human love, but she's hard to understand. It may sound funny, but paper money burns right in her hand. Her father's name is Burns, he works in the mine, said she ate a box of matches at the age of 9. Flaming Mamie, the surefire vamp, the hottest baby in town.
Mike Merkel's orchestra recording from 1925, and a Lightbeam record with all that intermod, which just it sounds really present. It's an interesting quality. It's just got a certain subjective aspect to it, and as a listener, and it really, to my mind, it has that sound of when you're really in an ensemble. If you're sitting amongst a group of musicians and it's very loud and your ears sort of saturate, and it's that sort of hyper presence. So it's an interesting quality. I quite like that record. And yes,
the box of matches at the age of 9.
Yeah, I know that's a little bit of
lyric.
Yes, it's quite a crazy lyric, and
I love it.
It's mad stuff. It's really roaring 20s.
It's roaring 20s, really roaring.
It certainly is, and she carries fire insurance on everything she wears. when it comes to loving, she's a human oven.
I love it, human oven.
It may sound funny, but paper money burns right in her hand.
That's great stuff.
It's fabulous words, amazing lyrics, and there's a great recording of Coon Sanders Nighthawks. They recorded the same song. And I think the music was written by Weidman, but I don't know who wrote the lyrics.
You did a good job.
They did, didn't they? Crazy stuff. Anyhow, it's a good way to launch the non-entertainment today. And now I did think I feel in the mood, and I think I might do some live non-entertainment, just a bit.
Oh, excellent.
Well, it's only because I've been teaching this piece today, and it's a piece I have played this before, but it's the prelude to the first suite, and I was teaching it today, and I was thinking, I've played this a billion times, but it's a piece of music that will always live with me, and it's in my DNA, and I think, well, why not? Since it's sort of in my fingers from playing it today, I'll give it another burl. So we all defer and hear a live presentation of the prelude to Bach's first cello suite. It's in G major. So I'll have to turn around. I've tried to emancipate the space problem here, and I've moved a few things around. I had to teach in here today with a double bass, and it forced me to move a few things around to make some space for that. And in doing so, I have a little bit more bowing room than I've had in the past. So I'll do a 360. I'll switch on the other mic, and I'll just check that the other mic's going. Hello, 1 2 1 2. Yep. So we've got microphone 2 switched in. I'll take the cans off. Spin the chair around, and
vk3sl.
looks like we have a workable situation here. Let's take the record off. There we go. And, right, we'll have a listen to the suite number 1. Just the first movement, the prelude, and let's see what happens. So a bit of Bach to kickstart the missions today. Now,
Very
let's switch
good.
the microphone back on. Microphone 2. There we go. Back in the zone. So that's got that out of my system.
What was the other thing they used that music in?
I don't know.
He used it in something else.
I'm not sure. I'm not aware of it being used. I know it was transcribed for lute, and I haven't heard it in any of the keyboard works, but I've only ever heard the guitar and lute transcription of that suite in any other guys, but it's been adapted by lots of people in the interim.
That might be what I'm hearing, thinking about.
But it's look, it's one of the those pieces that endures.
Beautiful, really.
It's a nice piece. It's good. I actually
I love the way it works up to its climax.
Yes, it has a wonderful sort of high point, doesn't it? And I mean, it can be played so many different ways. I mean, I've played it a bit silly fast then, but it can be played very reflectively, and it has a completely different meaning. So it's interesting. That's the great thing about all this music is that, particularly the music of Bach, is that it can be really interpreted in so many different ways. And I mean, often that, just to give an example, now we're sort of riffing on the subject, I can just give you, I've got my headphones off, so, but if I play it this way, it's completely different. You'll hear that the mood will be something totally different. So you can hear it sort of assumes a completely different character, all just to do with tempo and Yeah.
Totally does. I think I might even prefer it like that.
Yeah, look, it just depends on the mood. I was sort of in a slightly hyperbolic mood to start with. And I love playing Bach slow and reflectively as well. So, yeah, it's brought me back down to earth now, slowing it down. But, yes, you can find more nuance, of course, when it's slower. And it's not as strident, but it is a prelude, so I suppose it's also the sort of the opening. But, I sometimes you get having the strong sense of the harmonic pulse gives a forward-looking motion, a very sort of, slightly masculine approach, I suppose. And other times you can just find a very reflective air. So, but within all of that, of course, there's a million different micro-emotions that are expressed along the way, along the meander.
There's really always such depth in it that slow never fails to sound weak.
Yeah, it's a good point. That's a really good point. It's interesting. Technically, it's so much harder to play slow. So much harder.
And it is.
Yeah, it really is.
You don't have that momentum, do you?
You don't. Usually when you play it fast, it just sort of plays itself, really.
Rolls along.
It does, yeah. It finds its pace. But slowly, it's hard because you've got to sustain. You've got to really, find those Gogic points where, those rhythm points I mentioned and allow them to breathe. And it's very easy for it to sort of trip over itself when it's played slowly. So, or to sort of lose its calibrated, reflective qualities.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting one, but anyhow, there we go. That was just I can have my glass of wine now.
That was great. Well earned.
No, I was just playing it a lot today, so I was thinking, might as well. All right, so what else? Well, sort of I pulled out a few more of those world record discs. And there's a number of interesting things here, so I reckon it could be good to sample some more of those. We've got more of the World Concert Orchestra. That's the group.
With Peter York.
Yeah, Peter York's
Very good.
He's conducting and also and arranging the music on these. So I'm just going to make sure I've got the right system switched in here, and we can have a listen to a tune called Lady of Madrid, I think. Or was it I Talk to the Trees? Let's have a look. I'm just going to hold it up and check. It's Bright Rumba, Lady of Madrid, track 3. They're all locked grooves, so it's a bit of it takes a bit of care to get the needle in the right spot. All right, we'll have a listen to Peter York and Lady of Madrid, vk3sl.
Here's JR.
Yes, it masterful arranging of Peter York and his concert orchestra. And it's good music, isn't it? Good, solid incidental music.
Certainly is.
Yeah, and I'd like to know more about the World Concert Orchestra. Evidently, what he moved on to after working with Louis Levy for quite a long period in the 30s. The other side has got some more Xavier Cugat in his orchestra. Now, we listened to the Schubert Serenade last night, but we've got Malinoche, which is an instrumental rumba, or La Rosita. What do you think, Frank?
Go La Rosita.
La Rosita, medium instrumental tango, it says. Oh. All right, we'll have a listen to Xavier Cugat and sample this. And incidentally, these are on Program World Service transcription records from 2GB. This is vk3sl and vk3jr testing. Music of Xavier Cugat and his orchestra. And that was quite pleasant, wasn't it?
Very nice.
Nice middle-of-the-road dinner music. It's, what's that? Drive time. Drive time selections.
Good tangos, very nice.
Yes, we have to have tangos. We all need a good tango and a good rumba.
I wish I could dance it.
Oh, it'd be good, wouldn't it? I feel the same. I don't have the skills. I'm always treading on the partner's toes, and I've got a bad reputation for a real wannabe without the skill. That's in lots of walks of life, but dancing's one of them. All right.
I know.
So, yes, Well, we've also got some new recent uploads to the Vintage Japanese anthology, which has been sort of progressively expanding over the next little while. So we can have a listen to something from that ilk, but I cannot announce it. All I can tell you is this recording was made in 1931, I think. Or, no, I've got two of them here, one 1929 and one 1931. We'll go with the early one first, maybe, see how it presents. No idea who the artist is or what the theme is. It's a complete unknown, but hopefully will be just as atmospheric as the others. Wasn't it an interesting amalgam of Western and Eastern influence?
Yes, quite a strong Western influence there.
Yeah, there certainly was. But then it would sort of refer back to those that pentatonic melody and
It did.
And the Aeolian mode. It was really effective, interesting, and the only thing I can decipher from that upload is the date, 1929. But I'd love to know what the background to these records is. Maybe we could do some deeper investigation. But
you have your Japanese correspondent.
I have to. Yes, he's busy composing at the moment. He hasn't come out of his room for days, and he's.
Well, we will await the result.
We'll see what happens. I don't
Great
know.
anticipation.
No, well, he's out practicing a lot too. But it's yes, there's we're getting little samples here and there, and yes, something's simmering away.
I think it's amazing what he does. I'm not just saying that. I really do.
Well, it's interesting, and it's good to sort of use composition and that type of thing as a way of developing skills, and I think that's the big part of it, is just to heighten perception and oral training and all of that.
Oh, yeah.
a form of expression.
It's a step to go from that to actually creating, I think.
Yeah, I suppose it is. Well, it's an authentic way of sort of, connecting with the principles. And he's quite keen about it all.
Right.
Yeah. Anyhow, so what else has surfaced in the last little while? There's been an incredible recording turn up, and if I can dial it up later, I will. It's it's on another news group that I partake in, and it's a recording of Cortot from Alfred Cortot, the pianist, great pianist. A recording made in 1951. He would have been a very old man at that point, and but he's playing a sort of Haydn variations on the piano, and it's some of the most perfect pianism I've ever heard. It's so just still and remarkable and deeply expressive and impeccably nuanced. And I'll see if I can find the link to it, and I'd like to play it, but I haven't. It might even have to be tomorrow night, because I might have to test it and get it organised, because it came up as a special file, which it's not like a YouTube, which I can just upload here. But it was a really exciting discovery, and it's something I had no idea about. And it's actually, there's been a fair bit of interest in this. So that's something we can look forward to.
You bet.
Yeah. Now, while we're sort of still playing popular stuff, another interesting thing that's turned up is a recording of Paul Whiteman's band. Here it is. This is an exceptional rarity, and I was aware that it was in the public domain, but it's a small part of a concert that Paul Whiteman gave in London at the Royal Albert Hall in April 1926. They did a tour that year, and the entire concert at the Royal Albert Hall was recorded, but never issued. And it was thought that no copies existed, and it was just seen as being, it was only existed in name.
Yeah.
And remarkably, about a year ago, one of the discs turned up from a collector in Britain, and it's since done the rounds a couple of times, but it surfaced again yesterday. So it's just a part of a live concert at the Royal Albert Hall with Paul Whiteman's orchestra from 1926. It's the pre-Bix era. It's the sort of earlier band. The band sort of reformed itself after he absorbed the Jean Goldcat Orchestra in 1927. So it's an earlier Whiteman, but it's certainly the band that played for Gershwin and who recorded and performed Rhapsody in Blue for the first time.
Oh.
But in this instance, it's just a couple of tunes. Linger a While with the banjo player Mike Pinkertor and Nola, and I can't remember who's playing on Nola, but anyhow, it's a little sample. It's just one tiny segment of this long concert, which is all reputed to survive, but we certainly haven't heard anything but this little snippet. So, yeah, let's have a listen to this recording from Sunday, April the 11th, 1926. There we go.
There you go.
The Paul Whiteman Orchestra live in concert at the Royal Albert Hall, 1926.
Pity it, someone compensated the noise reduction. It sounds crap.
I know, it loses all of its life. It's such a pity because that's probably one of the rarest things out there, and it's been, I don't know, it's lost its soul. It's had the life sucked out of it.
I'd like to hear the originals.
Yeah, it would be great if they turned up. That's the only one out of the, I think they made 12 sides or 15 sides, and that's the only one that's even ever shown the light of day, and it's just turned up in that highly over-processed state. So it's a real pity. It would have been good to hear it, but look, it's a suggestion of what there was, and maybe someone will have the foresight to do the right thing.
It's said to be still, someone's got the real thing,
Yeah.
The originals.
Yes, they're out there somewhere. Yeah.
So it was like a proper pressing, because they didn't have acetates then, did they?
No, they didn't. It was. I think test pressings were made, and
But it was never released.
Yeah, Mr. L knows the story. I think there was one set made and given to Whiteman, and it might be from his collection or something. But for some reason, it was never released.
Yeah.
But and I don't know if the metal mother parts survive. But it's such a pity,
Yeah, it sounds great.
Only if they put up the the original without the processing. It just kills so much music, and it's one of the great shames on YouTube is that 99% of the 78s put up have been over-processed. So there's just these precious few sites where people have just had the foresight to allow the music to speak for itself.
Exactly, even like the ones with a basic turntable, a crystal cartridge, just straight into the camera, sounds fine.
It sounds absolutely fine. That's all you need. You don't need anything else, and people can do their own doctoring if they want to. And but look, it's a great pity that so much good music is compromised simply because people think they're doing improvements. But
yeah, well, look, enough people are doing the right thing, so it'll get more and more.
Yes.
Talk about improvements. Your 160 is sort of basically unlistenable. The splats, like.
Oh shit! Is it okay?
Yeah, like you tune to the centre.
Yeah.
And you seem to have a listen to maybe it's your signal generator. Have a listen straight off that.
Yeah. Okay.
Without going to the codan, because when I was doing tests, it didn't have that effect. If you turned up, all that happened is sort of like it downward modulated and sounded a bit distorted. It didn't go splatty.
Yes, it's quite possible it is.
Yeah, maybe you just have to equalise it. It might be a bit, maybe not as bright, but the splats. I have to listen either off UHF or the stream because it's really annoying.
Yeah, of course. No, that's fine.
It's worse than the distortion on the barymeters, which you put up with.
Oh, well, that's a pity. It's got to that.
To listen to.
Yeah.
So
I can try and scale it. Look, thank you. I appreciate that. I could try and scale it back a bit more. It's not splatting on music, really, is it? It's just
the music's okay.
It's just on voice. Yeah.
And looking at the spectrum scope on the 7300, between 3.5 and 5K, you've got a big peak on your voice and jumps right up. If you reduce the bandwidth to 3K, you don't hear the splats because the splats are out of that.
Yes, that's why it's not so evident on the
it's not as bad on Frank. And maybe if you just put a notch at 4K in your voice, or use a crap mic, a crystal mic.
Yes, or maybe it's better to use it as just a bad microphone.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Just something, voice quality.
Yeah, I'll go and just have a quick look and see where I've got it dialed to, because I can dial it right down and just see what happens. Just while you're there, just one moment, just standing on by. Well, let's take a quick check here. Now that's substantially down on before. Is that better or worse or the same? Maybe it's the same. But yeah, I'm now.
Keep going from the studio to the rec room.
Oh yes.
I think it sounds better. Just talk to Frank a bit.
Yes. Okay. Well, look, I've dialed it down to about 30 watts out now, and 30 watts on the Codan. And before it was about 40, 45. So. It's maybe things are a little bit more have marginally improved. I don't know. So yes, it's finding that sweet spot perhaps. But
It hasn't fallen very much. It's hardly noticeable.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. So look, the carrier at a glance, about 30 watts of carrier now with the Kodan. So maybe that peak is just something that's emphasised. Anyhow, we'll see what the result is, but we'll hopefully find a better solution. But maybe a notch filter could do it.
It is a lot better. It's still there a bit, but I think it's just your voice has got that
Yes,
peak.
it's the peak of my voice. It's just the
Yeah.
nature. I haven't got the booming resonance of other.
It's sort of that is much better,
Right.
but maybe just look. It's only in the mic channel. It seems to be the problem.
Yes, it's interesting, isn't it? It just comes through the mic. I mean, I can dial it down even further. I can bring it down to 25 watts. Maybe that's better. I'll make one more adjustment here. Yeah, thanks for this. Okay, it's about 25 watts of carrier now. I think thereabouts. 25, yes, about 25 watts of carrier on AM using the Kodan splatter mits.
Yeah, but that is better.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe it's just the way this particular
I don't know why
PA
it would be doing
is
that.
set up.
Because it shouldn't be a frequency thing.
No.
Who knows? But
Look, it just could be an overload characteristic just with this particular set. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be.
Who knows? But well, I can keep it on this, but it's very low power. Frank, can you hear me just as well?
Pretty well. Let me just take a reading.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe, it doesn't really matter if I'm not putting out a lot of power, and then I can notch it back up when I put on the Thunderbirds or whatever the serial is later on.
Look, it says plus 30. That's what I usually get you at.
Oh, okay,
now,
fair enough.
It could be that there's up to 3 or 4 or 5 dB difference that I can't even register because I can't see the single figured variations of the meter. I'm just going on what the voice reading's telling me.
Sure, fair enough.
I don't need to interrupt the music, but maybe I'll get a reading on the 7300 on the S meter, dial it up to your normal strength, and I can tell you exactly if it makes much difference to the readings and the noise level.
That's the way to go.
Okay, so I'll
just stay here maybe for a minute, then go up to a higher power, and I'll come back to you.
All right then, I'll stay here. We'll just talk at this level for the moment, and we'll see what's happening. Oh, it's good to do these little tests on the fly. Work out what the characteristics are. Yeah, it's all finding that optimum using flawed systems or compromised systems or adaptive situations. So yes, Frank. Well, what else can I find here on the list? We've got more vintage Japanese music. We can save that for later. Maybe we can. I've got also some more 1920s. I've got a recording here of Ernie Golden and his Hotel McAlpine Orchestra with the Keller Sisters. I'd like to hear that, so we might put that on a bit later on. But what I'll do now, that's the normal mic level, by the way. Now, at this point, I will now jump up and I'll return back to our normal power, acknowledging the fact that we are about 25 what's the carrier? Yeah, about 25 watts. All right, I'll go and switch things back to the normal power and we can make a seasonal comparison. One moment. Okay, that's the power I had before. It's about 35-40 watts now of carrier, and this is where we're having the splat emissions. I can sort of back off the mic a little bit too.
Well, I set the I turned on to attenuator and just set the RF gain so it read strength 9 exactly.
Yeah.
And it went up. It half triggered one of the, like I think there might be 10 segments per thing.
Yeah.
And in one S-meter thing, and it half triggered one occasionally.
Oh,
and looking at the graph, it made no difference. So
well, I'll stick with the lower power.
It just makes it more distorted, and it would make no difference.
No.
Of course, you could do all these tests listening on LTW, of course.
LTW. Yes.
The SDR near you.
Oh yes, TLW. Yes.
TLW.
Yes. Sorry. Yes, I'm with you. Well, yes, I know, but the problem is the cutoff is such that I don't really get the full effect of the splats.
Well, you don't need it. Like even on, as I said, even on the AR7, that's quite very pronounced. And yeah, you don't need a wide. Even like any AM decent AM radio will pick it up. You don't need wide band to hear it. Like the splats are well within the like 3kc onwards. So even on a narrow band set, it sounds terrible.
Okay, look, that's good advice. Yeah. Thank you for that.
I wound the AGC right off and put the attenuator in, and the difference was about as much. It was about as small as you could get to be audible. It was barely audible, the difference.
Okay, well that's fine.
About right.
Well, in that case, I'll go back and just wind it back, and then we'll just stick with our cursory 25 and be done with it. That sounds fine.
Less annoyance factors into state, I suppose.
Well, that's true. Exactly. No, it'll be all very.
Of course, you could go back to FM.
Oh, I could.
It was mainly because of the night time, people in the state hearing it but not hearing it. So anyway,
oh look, as a stopgap, look, it's there are different options. I could use the Barry mitts or this. It's yeah, that's the way it is. But look, I'll wind it back to the other level now. I'll do it during this next piece. Yeah. But thanks for those observations.
It's amazing how good UHF sounds. Even on the Bofang, it just seems the equalisation, even on a tiny little handheld, it sounds quite full and, it's amazing quality, whatever. I think it's just fluked, that mitters and whatever you're feeding into it, just perfect.
Yes, I think it's a nice synergy there. And I'm using the big one in that process, but I made up a new attenuator, and it means that I can put a bit more into. See, the problem is the big one was working at its minimum excursion, and before, and now I'm able to use the big one within its better pass band, and I've got another attenuator to bring it in line with the mitts, so it seems to be a much happier situation.
Oh, good, yeah.
Yeah, because the big one was working like an expander earlier on. It just wasn't working properly because it wasn't set within its threshold. So that's an improvement.
Yeah.
But so UHF's working nicely, but I suppose down the track, if there's future prospects with other mitts and things, we can hopefully resolve this for good.
We've had a bit of a backwards. Anyway,
that's right.
It's getting, as I said, the final details of these mitts, so they work reliable, is what makes all the time you spend.
Yes.
And
yes, it's all in the detail, isn't it?
I know. Like painting all the doorknobs in the house takes longer than building the house.
That's right, it does. Very much so. Yeah. Anyhow, well, at whenever the time comes. But all right, well, look, I'll go and make those quick adjustments, and then while doing that, I'll put on a recording of Eddie Golden and his Hotel McAlpine Orchestra, a recording from 1927. Thanks, fellas. Back soon.
Just wait
Golden and the Hotel McAlpine Orchestra with the Keller Sisters, recording made in 1927, I think. There we go. And thank you for all of those suggestions. It's always good to have some feedies back to fine-tune things and to make sense of an impossible situation. Anyhow, we will continue. We'll find more things to flesh out the program for today. We might be able to find something else from the ABC show band. Have I got the record still here? Where's it gone? I did have it here. It's gone. It's disappeared into the ether. We'll have to find that, and I know where it is. It's in another place. I will go and have a look, because I think we do need a little bit of the ABC show band, and it's the geeky sounds of Mr. May. One moment, it's over here. We have it at hand. Now, Frank, you still there?
Yeah.
Great. I'll read out some tracks. You can tell us what we can, what you think deserves a play. We've got on side 2. We've got Turn the Beat Around. We've got I Go to Rio. Next one's Honestly I Love You, and another Funny Honeymoon. And we've already heard the Calling Occupants of Interplanetary Craft. We've got On the Loose Again and Gonna Fly from Rocky.
How about I Go to Rio?
Go to Rio. Okay. And this one,
what's the name? Allen song. What's his name? Peter Allen.
Peter Allen, that's right. Yes, he did. Now this one has a flugelhorn solo played by Bobby Venier.
All right.
Yeah, a bit of a locality. So we'll find this, and I'm just looking at finding the right side. I Go to Rio. I think it's track 2 on side B. I Go to Rio. There we go. So I just need to switch in the SP10 and cue this one up. And I think we're almost ready to go. So yeah, featuring Brian May and the ABC Melbourne show band, recorded in probably in Broadcast House or Ripon Lee in the late 1970s. And it's got the worst record cover I've ever seen. One of the worst. Yeah, they just look like such a bunch of dags. It's just shocking. They just all got bad hair. The light's really bad. Everyone looks awkward. They've been told to do something for the camera, and everyone looks sort of self-conscious and like they really don't want to be there. And even Brian May standing at the front with his hair all sort of blown out.
Probably don't want to be there.
I don't think so. And he's sort of got this exasperated sort of stance, and they're all standing in the MCG and behind the scoreboard with big Brian May and the ABC Melbourne show band up on the scoreboard. And it's just a really...
bit twee, isn't it?
It's really twee. It's really bad. And even they haven't even got the ABC logo on the drums, and they've sort of photoshopped it in afterwards. So it's, it looks very amateur. So, but the music's all it's all very good. I quite enjoy their sounds. Anyhow, I think we're ready to go. Brian May and the Melbourne Show Band, and I Go to Rio.
From the sax player.
Yeah, a bit of an upbeat track there.
And the trumpeter as well.
Yeah.
A little bit of almost improvisation.
Yes, that's right. Someone's behind you there, Frank.
Oh, just me.
Yep.
Just a bit of a story. I have some great... Brian May's photographer or publicity person, they're some of the worst, aren't they, all these
Oh,
photos?
they're shocking.
They're just like dags no matter where they're standing.
It's so true. I've never seen this would have to go down on one of the... I might send it to one of those sites of the worst record covers of all time.
Yeah.
They just look real. They just don't want to be there, and they look really like idiot musicians, all of them.
They certainly do.
And they've all got their red sweaters on, and they're sort of standing there like poles. They look really sort of unanimated and bored and frustrated and embarrassed, and it's just really bad grouping. It's just it's beyond ridiculous.
One of the best old 60s, 70s records, you buy them just for the covers. Some are just so daggy.
Oh, they certainly are.
And yeah, there's some artist, and he's got all his 1960s hi-fi gear.
Oh, right.
Akai tape recorders. It must have been sponsored by Akai or something.
Yes, probably we were.
One of these, B-grade singers that used to be around.
Yes.
And he's there with all his...
with his gear?
Yeah, I'll have to show it to you. It's amazing.
I'd like to see that.
But
yeah.
On another level, Brian May, when they used to record in Studio 320...
Yes.
I've got a photo of Barney O'Neill on the desk. You've seen that one.
Oh, yes, I have. Yes,
anyway, they used to do a show on Saturday mornings or something.
Yes.
It was pre-recorded.
Yes.
And they'd mix down into a mono mix on a 15 IPS on a roller or something.
Yep.
And or a pressing machine, or maybe even Studio. Anyway, they just a bit of hum. I think it's not me. Anyway, what happened? They'd mix it down. They'd play it on Saturday afternoon or Saturday morning or whatever.
Yep.
Now, most of the equalisation in the ABC was fairly conservative. They didn't boost things, and just very flat. It sounded quite boring. And if you turn up the treble, there were super tings there, but it never went out really. It was very conservative. But they mixed these; they just sounded fantastic. The tinkles that were coming out, and I remember listening in the switch room in that the famous speaker.
Yes, yes.
It was just like mind-blowing. Like when you could hear the 20 kc, it was just coming at you. It was just like a wall of this just tinklies and just fantastic quality. Really low, good signal-to-noise ratio at 15 IPS.
Yes.
And the bass, it was just the most Phi thing you'd ever hear.
Oh, how about that?
Incredible.
That is great. What a recollection. Fabulous.
And I've got some of the tapes here.
Yeah.
And you play them and you think, I know digital is better, and I think it is. But when you listen to these, you think, well, something that's never been digitised in the highest quality, it is pretty bloody good,
Yeah, for sure.
And just the tinkles just stand out, just super incredible.
Yeah, well, they sort of suspended in space. You get that sort of spatial thing with the high register. You don't get flatness, and they work superbly. Oh, that would have been quite an experience hearing that in its full expression on the big speaks on the big RCA.
I've had the call, so
you've had the call.
Go.
Okay, Frank, great. Well, thank you, and
Frank.
we'll look
See you,
forward
Dave.
to catching up tomorrow or thereabouts or whenever. Or
Should be fine. vk3sl clear.
Okay, cheers for now. Yes, but Brian May. Now, that would have been great to be a fly on the wall and see that.
And even on the leaks, it sounds fantastic on the leaks.
Yeah.
And the JBLs, you go around to see which speaker sounds best on it. And, there's amazing quality. And in the supervisors, electrostatic sounded pretty good on those too.
I bet it did. It sounded most excellent indeed.
See, on Saturday mornings you do all that because they weren't there in their room.
Yes, that's right. You could go out and have a listen. That's very good. I know Barney O'Neill gets a Guernsey on this record cover here. It says engineered by Barney O'Neill, Ray Moore, Ross Smith.
Oh, yes, all those old guys.
Chris Thompson and David Stewart. Oh, no, and Linton Bryant. Yeah, so...
Linton Bryant, yes.
Yes. So they all... Yeah,
he was there at the when they pulled down the 3UZ tower.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, no, it was all the good stuff.
They did. So they used an Astor desk, didn't they, for this? Is that right?
Yeah, before they moved to RIP, they had that Astor desk, and then they thought, well, it's better to use. They've got a high, a state-of-the-art desk at RIP,
Yep.
not being used most of the time. We'll just use that.
They had a Neve or something at Rick, didn't
Yeah.
they? Yeah.
And then they went to a digital one later. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was. So they had. Well, it might have been a Quad 8.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, that was sort of more sophisticated. And they had more space to play with and all sort of stuff.
Sure.
So, and they could photograph record covers out in the garden. There's one daggy thing there in the car park, and then this dead tree in the back of them, and they're all just gawky look like, with these funny 60s collars and things.
Yes,
on.
I know. They just look so like they don't want to be there. And you can just see them all just sort of, brought out of their brains, being sort of shoehorned into something they don't want to do. But those covers are legendary for Brian May. All of them are bad. There's no good cover, and they all tell a story about the about the occasion.
Because the covers, they're so big. Like you forget that. Covers can make or break a record, surely.
Oh, definitely.
And
Oh, look, it's that first impression, and no, record covers. Certainly that's the number one sales thing.
And often in second-hand shops, you get a fantastic photo, and the music is just crap.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, all too often.
Yeah,
It's
right.
just by the cover. Yes, the advertising hype.
There was a complete thing. There's a cover notes in the back telling you about the group and everything.
Oh, yes.
So, interesting. But,
yeah, very much so.
Look, the quality is much better. It's listenable now.
Okay, I'm pleased it's listenable.
Yeah, it
That's the
hasn't
main
made
thing.
no difference practically to the signal strength, but
Okay.
it's not splatting like an off-tune receiver.
Yes.
It just sounded really terrible.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And you would have lost listeners, so
Yes, that's right. I
would have gone from
-1 to -5.
That's right, yes.
Okay, well, I reckon for the nenext little bit, I'll do a Thunderbird shortly, but for the next little bit, I'll continue. We'll have a listen to the rest of this album, I think.
Okay, well, I'll speak to you next time.
Yes, indeed. Thanks, Dave. That's all good. Most interesting to get industry stories and the authentic touch and hearing all about the ABC show band in situ. All right, well, yesterday we heard side A. I reckon we'll go back and we'll hear side B in its entirety, and then we'll have a Thunderbirds episode. So, here we go. Back to the beginning, and we'll start with Turn the Beat Around. This is vk3sl Test Missions. This is vk3sl testing. listening to Brian May and the ABC Melbourne Show Band. Recordings made in the late 1970s. And this is vk3sl Test Missions on 160 and on UHF. Well, at this point we'll have a listen to an episode of The Thunderbirds. It's a bit of a time-honoured tradition now. We've been progressively working through the vaults. Now, this one is The City of Fire. It's another skyscraper on fire program, and it's quite an episode. Last night's I thought was particularly good, had a number of tangents to it. Well, hopefully this one holds up just as well, but I must remember to turn the stream off. So if you're listening on the stream, there we go. I can see that we have Mr. Newbeck on the stream, and I'm trying to be a little bit more alert to notifications on the stream. I'm not used to it. It's on the other part of the room, and I need to be aware of any messages. So yes, a warm hello to Mr. Newbeck listening on the stream, and we had a listener the other day. I think it was Ian is listening on the stream as well. So thank you for your comments. And what we'll do is, if you are listening on the stream, I urge you to, and you want to keep on listening, if you want to hear the Thunderbirds, I suggest you look at stream number 2, which is not the YouTube stream, but rather a stream that was the original stream that I used, and it's still active, and it can be found on my QRZ page, which is, that's one way of finding it. The other one is the Blogspot page, vk3sl.blogspot.com, and there are links to both streaming service. The other is the secondary stream, and it's the one that I can use when there's a copyright issue to contend with, which is the case with the Thunderbirds. I got a strike last time I put a Thunderbirds episode up, so we can't have that happen on YT. So I think that's all that needs to be said. We can switch off the stream